want to take this time to welcome Cody, our alumni speaker for this evening, as we kick things back off with the Alumni Speaker Series. So we are joined by Cody Booker. He was a biology major with a general business minor from the Fayette campus who graduated in 2016. So Cody, on behalf of the entire university and from the Alumni and Advancement team, I just want to welcome you to our Alumni Speaker Series. Thank you for taking time out of your evening and your busy schedule to join me so that we can just kind of talk about what your experience was at Upper Iowa and how your experience and opportunities that you've had might be able to affect and impact other students along with alums as well. So looking forward to talking with you tonight and have enjoyed our conversations over the course of the last few weeks. And so going to be great to get your information out to the university community. So we welcome Cody to our speaker series this evening.
Well, thank you. And it's a great honor to be asked to do this. And, I had an outstanding experience at Upper Iowa, and I'm very glad to give back in whatever way that I can.
First, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Obviously, my name's Cody Booker. I'm 31 years old. I grew up in LaSalle, Illinois. I'm the oldest of four. I've got two sisters and a brother, and a couple parents that set us up for success from day one and taught us what hard work was. And so, I got to thank them for that. After high school, obviously came to Upper Iowa. We'll talk about my time there, but after graduation, decided I wanted to go to law school. I went to Northern Illinois University College of Law. That went well. I passed the bar exam and moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico for a little bit. Took my first job out of law school there. And the joke I always say is that the fishing's not very good in the desert. And I've since moved to Mankato, Minnesota, where the fishing's a little bit better than Albuquerque. So I'm now a personal injury attorney. I represent plaintiffs who are injured, due to somebody else's negligence most often, and really enjoy my work. I get to, help people get from sometimes the worst position they've been in their life. I get to see them recover and then get to, obtain justice for those people. And that's fulfilling. I've always liked helping people, and this is a role that absolutely does that. So that's what I'm doing for work. I still enjoy sports and the outdoors whenever I can. And I like to volunteer with Mankato United Way, as well as the Miracle League of North Mankato, which is a baseball league for individuals with disabilities and special needs. So those are the types of things that I'm spending my time doing now.
And Cody, I might add, you've been busy the last couple of weeks because you just recently got married as well. So congratulations on that accomplishment too.
I did. Thank you. It's been a hectic month or so, and it went from I was actually lucky enough to have a hunt in New Mexico that I was drawn for, and it just happened to be the weekend before my wedding. So my now wife, who is very understanding, allowed me to do that. I rushed home. We got married. We went on our honeymoon, and then it's been diving back into work. And I ran a half marathon this past weekend, so mixed some training in there as well. So it's been kind of hectic.
So can you give us some background on what brought you to Upper Iowa and the transition that took place while you were on campus?
So coming out of high school, being the oldest, I didn't have the luxury of watching a sibling go through the process. But I knew I wanted to go to college, and I knew I wanted to continue my athletic career. And what that meant, I wasn't quite sure. And so getting the different mailers and exploring the different options as to who would even want me on one of their athletic teams. Baseball was always kind of number one, but football was in the back of my mind too. I'm a little bit undersized for football, and so I elected to stay with baseball. But my first contact from Upper Iowa, I got a football mailer, and it talked about the Peacocks and, come visit campus. And I'd never heard of Upper Iowa. and I had never heard of somebody being, having a mascot that was the Peacocks. And so I laughed a little bit about that. And in hindsight, the Peacocks are the coolest mascot on the planet. So that was my first introduction to Upper Iowa. After I got a few other interests with baseball, I eventually had a visit with the baseball team and an opportunity to come onto campus and figure out what Upper Iowa was all about. And from the first time I stepped on campus, it felt like home. Everything was very welcoming, and the people that the people that you met felt like family, and they cared about you, and there was a genuine concern for your well-being going forward, and that was very cool.
You were involved in many different organizations and activities while you were on campus. Can you talk about some of the things that you were involved in and how those experiences impacted you once you completed your undergraduate degree here?
One of those first times that I stepped on campus, and I don't remember what the first instance was, but I had an opportunity to compete for a scholarship. And one of those first people that I got to meet, that my dad got to meet, was Louis Scott. And, that was a connection that still exists today. And Louise and I stay in contact pretty often. But she got me interested in getting involved, and things like student government association. That was kind of the first step, and I was a vice president for academic affairs or something with the SJA, and that was getting my feet wet, understanding how things worked and how I could be involved and how I could try to make the university a better place. And then eventually became president, and got a lot of enjoyment out of representing my peers and seeing how things kind of operated behind the scenes at Upper Iowa. I got a lot of benefit from that. Let's see. So after I was the president with SGA, I had an opportunity to represent the students on the board of trustees as kind of the student member. And so I even got a further deep dive into how the university operates and what kind of decisions are made, and the different things that go on. And it was just really cool to see, and it was experience that you couldn't have gotten anywhere else, maybe other than where I found myself. And Upper Iowa presented so many opportunities for growth and to experience things like the board of trustees that maybe bigger colleges don't. For example, you go to the University of Iowa, those opportunities are extremely limited. Whereas at Upper Iowa, if you want to get involved, those opportunities are there, and there's somebody to coach you along the way. So that was always very cool to be a part of. As the student representative, either with the SGA or the board, I had an opportunity to visit the international centers with Upper Iowa, and at the time were Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And so a group of university representatives went to their commencement ceremonies. And, not only did I get to see how much people cared about Upper Iowa across the globe, I also got to see an international impact that this small school in the cornfields of Iowa had on the world. And so getting to do that with President Duffy and Andrew Wenthe, I mean, those experiences have absolutely helped create the person that I am today. And I don't think those happen without Upper Iowa University. So I'm very thankful for those things.
And you were also involved in baseball too. And kind of, can you talk a little bit about how adapting college life, the baseball schedule, academics, like kind of how was that transition for you as a student athlete?
Yeah. So in high school, I would say that I was somewhat gifted in retaining information and maybe didn't have to work as hard as I should have academically in high school. And that was a wake up call when I got to college and taking some of the honors courses that I was, and then, baseball workouts and practices. And then on top of that, I was a biology major. So on some of the days off that maybe some of the other majors didn't have, I had labs and different things like that. The schedule got to be hectic. So you mix in all the student government activities, you mix in the athletics, you mix in the academics. and there's not much time for relaxation or sleep. Especially in the off season with baseball, we'd have the late night practices in the rec center, and sleep was not a priority at that point. And so it really forced me to learn how to organize and prioritize and figure out how I was going to go about my day and still, give the energy and attention to all the things that I was doing. And I certainly grew as a person during that time. Rode the roller coaster a little bit on ups and downs and stress and figuring out how to manage that. But on the backside of it, I'm so much better for it. So it was a worthwhile experience.
I know you're practicing law now, but you didn't initially plan to be a lawyer. What made you want to adjust your career plans?
I didn't have anybody close enough to me in the law that I knew what it was all about. And so I was always interested. I took a business law class in high school, and Keith Buchan was the teacher of that one. And, to this day, he still takes credit for me being a lawyer. But I was always interested, but I didn't know quite enough about it. And I wasn't willing to risk something that I didn't know enough to put all the eggs in that basket. So I had undergone a handful of surgeries. I'd been in and out of doctor's offices with sports injuries. And I thought, why don't I, go pre-med and look into something along those lines? And so that's why I went biology. And I think it was probably about my junior year at Upper Iowa that the upper level science classes started kicking my butt a little bit. And, at that point, I wasn't willing to change majors and extend my undergraduate career. But I figured out I could go to law school with a biology degree. And so I started asking questions and, got in touch with Chris Cragness on campus, who, I don't think I'm sitting here today without him. And, the different advice and the courses and the information he provided is priceless. And so at that time, Jesse Big Knife was also another student on campus who was also interested in the law. And so we prepared for the entrance exam together and kind of went through that process together. So I wasn't on my own. And obviously everything's worked out since, but it was a change of plans, and I think it was all for the better, and I'm very happy with how things worked out.
Can you talk about that transition from law school and what that was like, the transition to law school and what that was like for you from undergrad?
People might think I'm crazy, but I thought law school was a step back in intensity compared to what I was doing at Upper Iowa. And I think my packed schedule and multiple commitments and, learning how to allocate my time at Upper Iowa really prepared me for law school, because I no longer was playing a sport and I didn't have all these other activities, and it just became school. All I had to do was school. And so I'd go to class, and then I'd get home and I'd study a little bit. And then I wasn't quite sure what to do with the free time that I had. But I obtained a law clerkship with the Cosentino law firm in DeKalb, Illinois, and got some hands-on experience that way while I was going to school. And, still felt like I had a ton of free time. I could devote my time to work. I could sit down and review my outlines from class, and still felt like I could take a deep breath at the end of the day, because there wasn't something at 8 a.m. that I had to panic for the next day. So yeah, I think time management and the different things I learned at Upper Iowa definitely prepared me for law school. And if anything, it was a step back in terms of intensity.
Others that are listening this evening might be contemplating pursuing a graduate degree. How were some of the demands? I know you mentioned that it was kind of a step back for you because you were so involved in undergrad, but how were some of the demands of law school different from those demands of your undergraduate degree?
So at Upper Iowa, the biggest thing for me, the quarterly classes, I really enjoyed that. And it was action packed for a shorter amount of time, but you followed along with the curriculum, and it was a process going through class, and you had assignments, and you had midterms, and you had different checkpoints on where you were academically. when you get to law school, it's a semester of lectures, and maybe you have a midterm, but you're expected to take notes and prepare throughout the entire semester. And then you have your entire class and grade that was riding on the final exam. And that was somewhat intimidating. You go from this very structured education plan to now the ball's in your court, and you better be prepared when that final exam comes around, or you'll be retaking the class, or they'll be kicking you out of law school. So that was a big time adjustment. The straight lecture approach was much different than your hands-on learning that you had in labs and different things like that. So that was probably the biggest adjustment from Upper Iowa to law school that I noticed.
The title of your talk, I guess, for tonight was trust the process. And, so you talk about how we want to trust whatever that process looks like for each of us. It's all going to be different. And it's important to know who we are and set goals of where we see ourselves headed. What are some key points that you can share with those watching tonight and those that watch this later about how we can take who we are as professionals and individuals and continue to be able to grow from that and trust that process?
So a lot of the things that I learned about trusting the process come from athletics and being on a team and putting in hard work and hoping that it pays off, in playing time or success. And I've always kind of had the underdog mentality. I've always been a little bit undersized and undertalented, but I always tried to outwork my opponents and be more prepared and set yourself up for success so that when that opportunity presented itself, you were in position to make a move. Trusting the process to me is knowing kind of what your end goal is, whether that's very specific or just kind of a general target area, but what's it going to take to get there, and what are the steps I need to take. And so whether it was my academic career, I knew I wanted to go to college, and so I prepared for the ACT and did well there, and so that opened that door, and now it's the decision of where I'm going to go to college. I knew I wanted to play baseball in college. Well, that doesn't happen senior year of high school. That happens, the 10 years before that as you're working towards that goal. And so I think you can apply that to a lot of things. As I looked at graduating from college and being successful after Upper Iowa, what that meant. At one point, I thought it was med school, and that path wasn't straight because we took a little bit of a turn and went towards law school, and then kept moving forward from there. It's just kind of having faith that hard work and perseverance and being prepared are going to be those things that allow you to be successful later on. It's not instant gratification that many people expect, but it's putting the ducks in a row, having your eyes on a goal down the road, and just making sure you're doing everything in your power currently to set yourself up for success down the road.
Making connections and being able to build relationships is so important to helping in the advancement of anyone's career, regardless of what your field is. What would you say is your biggest piece of advice to building relationships?
I would say be genuine. I mean, you are your biggest asset, and if anything, you're selling yourself in whatever position you're in. And whether it's to an employer showing that you're the employee that they want to hire, or you're the lawyer that the client wants to hire, this is what you're getting. And so you have to be able to give that 30-second elevator speech on what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and be able to show that person that you care, that it's meaningful to you. So being genuine is important. The other thing I would say is to get out of your comfort zone. There's so many of those things that give us butterflies or give us a little bit of that performance anxiety. Those are good things. That means you care, and you might not be comfortable doing it yet, but do it a few more times and you will be. So the more you put yourself out of your comfort zone and be okay being uncomfortable, that's going to happen, and you're going to fail. Failing is part of the process. And that's, some of my biggest failures in life. I don't look at poorly because I learned the most, I grew the most in those times, and it allowed me to get to where I am today. And so everything happens for a reason. Get outside your comfort zone, and just know that you've been working hard, that you're prepared, and whatever happens after that happens. But control the things that you can control first.
I know we just talked a little bit about relationship building, and kind of with that comes along with making connections. What are some other top qualities, attributes, or skills that individuals should have when thinking about their career fields that they're going to enter, and that will help make teams and organizations successful?
Being in sports, playing baseball at Upper Iowa, I mean, being a team player is one of the biggest things you can do. You might be the most gifted, you might be the smartest, but if you can't be a team player, you're not going to have a support staff. You're not going to have your right hand man. You're not going to have those people that are going to allow you to succeed. And being on an island is not going to allow you to grow. Um, the other thing would be communication. If you can't speak to people, it's tough to get your point across. And I think anymore, a lot of people are used to texting and emails and lack that face-to-face contact. We do a lot of depositions and things by Zoom, and I still don't like it. It's a lot more efficient. You don't have to travel somewhere to do it, but it's not the same connection. You don't get that personal connection. You can't read body language as well. Those are all things that you need to be comfortable doing, and that's part of communicating with people. And I think what can help people be successful.
Career readiness is a pretty important topic in higher education and with employers in general. And we at Upper Iowa here belong to NACE. It's the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And what they have done over the course of the last 10 to 12 years is they have developed eight core competencies actually that they consider career readiness, the career readiness competencies. And with it being such an important topic across the nation, what are some competencies that you feel are most important to helping individuals excel in their career goals, and why? And I know we've
So
talked about some of these already, so.
yeah, so we've hit on teamwork, we've hit on communication. Obviously, technology is one that as things speed up here with the world and evolve, you either need to learn or you're going to get passed by. And so keeping up on technology is important. Something that we've encountered in the legal field is, AI, like with many other fields. And so what that means for the practice of law and how you use it to your benefit. And those are still things that we're learning, but technology obviously important. Critical thinking, always an important competency. Be able to sit down and think through a problem, be able to brainstorm with a team, get different viewpoints, which, the equity and inclusion, get people from different backgrounds to the table. And, when you talk problem solving, having all the same like-minded people doesn't necessarily get all the right ideas out. And so that's important. Career and self-development, that's part of the preparation process. And, knowing what career you're kind of shooting towards, what does that entail, and what skills do I need to improve before I get there? And start that process down the road. Don't, show up on the doorstep of graduation and think you're going to jump into a career and you're not quite prepared. Another one is leadership, that I can thank athletics for, that you learn where you fit. And there's different scenarios where you're the right leader and, put the team on your back and go. And there's other times when you're better off being a cast member or a supporting role. And it's good to know when it's appropriate to be either one of those. And so, I think those 8 readiness competencies are important. And as you look at them, figure out what it means to you and how you improve yourself that way.
We did have a question come in on our Facebook Live here. And it is, what would be the one thing that you would want students considering Upper Iowa University to know?
I would say don't underestimate the education that you're going to get at Upper Iowa because of the size of the school or the size of the town. Um, Fayette, Iowa is a diamond in the rough, and Upper Iowa has endless opportunities. Like I've said, it's a matter of getting involved, and I think you're going to get more opportunities at Upper Iowa than you would a lot of other places where you're just a number in a huge enrollment, and people aren't necessarily going to care about you in the same way, and the faculty and the professors are not going to know you by name, and they're not going to know when you're in class, and they're not going to be sending those follow-up emails when maybe I overslept after a late night workout and didn't get up for an 8 a.m. lab, or things like that. That doesn't happen in other places, and it happens at Upper Iowa. And whether it's you've got a smaller student body, and everywhere you go, faces and names, and nobody's a stranger on campus, and everybody's looking out for one another, and it's such a family atmosphere that everybody kind of comes together, and everybody's moving toward an end goal, and they're supporting each other along the way. That stuff is, I don't hard to say. I mean, I went to NIU for law school, totally different, and I've never had an experience like I did at Upper Iowa with the togetherness and the community that UIU provided.
Awesome. Thank you. We did just have another question come through on our Facebook, and it is, do you have a mentor, and how would you rate the importance of mentorship in your personal and professional development?
I think mentors are extremely important. Um, whether it was a coach or a teacher in high school, you come to Upper Iowa, and your mentors are your baseball coaches, and Louis Scott and Daryl Grove, and Dr. Duffy. You go, you have those people walk alongside you. They're giving you advice. It's hard to replace those things because they've obtained information and experience over a long amount, long periods of time, and it would take me a lifetime to gain that information. And with a mentor, it's transferred pretty quickly. They take their successes and failures, and they basically summarize it and hand you the how-to manual. And so, I got out of Upper Iowa and went to law school, and I didn't know anything about the law. I came into law school very green, and half the things they said, more than half the things they said at orientation, I had no idea what they were talking about. But to have the law clerkship that I did at the Cosentino law firm, and I worked under Blake Cosentino, who allowed me to get a bunch of different experience in different areas of the law, and he was able to provide information that he was able to obtain while practicing as a lawyer. And so the learning curve is shorter, and it's a little bit flatter because of those mentors. And so as we go on, now that I'm in a law firm here, and the partners that I work with here, they're all mentors, and everybody's got the open door policy. And reach out to those people. Don't think you're the smartest one in the room, because you're not. And always look for somebody that you can look up to that's doing something similar to what you're doing, and just find out what their life experiences are. I mean, that's how you learn. And they say it's not what you know, it's who you know, and you can learn a lot more by who you know. So get out of your comfort zone and meet those people.
I want to circle back to, we were talking about the competencies just a little bit ago, and individuals, the importance of having those competencies. How would you encourage others to be able to improve upon those skills and competencies?
I think reading is probably your first step. If you're interested in something, read informational articles on it, read some research, read, what people expect, and whether it's employers or, what's your dream job, and then go look at the skills that they require and what they've got on their website under their, careers and hiring section. And then be real honest about your personal strengths and weaknesses, and figure out, where do I need to improve and what sorts of activities or experiences do I need to improve in those areas. And um, I think it starts with honest self-evaluation.
Kind of as we wrap things up tonight, are there any final pieces of advice that you would give to UAU students, alums, the university community, that might be watching things this evening before we wrap up?
I think the biggest thing is get on campus. Whether you're a prospective student and you're wondering if Upper Iowa is the place for me, visit. I can't stress that enough. And it's easy to underestimate Upper Iowa and look at the location or look at some of the other things, but it's a place like no other. And I think many of my successes I can attribute to my time at Upper Iowa and the education that I got, the experiences that I was able to obtain, the people I met. They're my best friends, my teammates, my roommates, all those people that I met. They were in my wedding. We hang out to this day. Um, it it's hard to explain. It's a family atmosphere, and you need to be a part of it. And they're connections that are lifelong, and they're meaningful. And um, I think I wouldn't do it any other way. If I had to go back and do it, I'd go right back to Upper Iowa, and I'm thankful for everything that it was able to offer. Um, and to students, maximize your time there. There's numerous opportunities, and you're probably not taking advantage of everything that you could be. So get out of your comfort zone, go shake somebody's hand, go figure out where else you can get involved. And I know I'm guilty of this, but alumni need to get back on campus and shake those hands and make those connections with students and grow that community. Because yeah, Upper Iowa, the enrollment might be small at the Fayette campus, but it's an international university. People care, and Peacock pride is a real thing. And so getting back to see those people that meant so much during those 4 years of undergrad, I think that's important too.
I think those are good words to end our talk with this evening. And so I would challenge any other alum that is out listening tonight to come back and visit Upper Iowa. And Cody, we expect to see you and your family back on campus sooner rather than later, hopefully. So I would like to thank you one final time for joining us for the Alumni Speaker Series this evening. This was our first one for the academic year. We have another one coming up in November when we will be joined by a 2017 alum who happened to be an international student. So that will be a unique perspective that we will be bringing to next month's talk. And so, Cody, again, thank you for joining us this evening. It was wonderful hearing your perspective of your time at Upper Iowa and after you've left. And we hope that everyone has a great evening.
Thank you. And can I say one more thing?
You sure can.
I'm going to be in trouble if I get home and I don't say this. Upper Iowa is also responsible for bringing my wife and I together. And she's also an Upper Iowa grad. And so, in addition to friends and mentors and lifelong connections, I'm now married to Macy Booker, thanks to Upper Iowa. So add that to the list of numerous great things that came from Upper Iowa.
And we have many Peacock couples. We have many Upper Iowa couples very much in your same situation. So it's wonderful, the lifelong friendships and connections that it can provide. So again, thank you very much, Cody, and we hope you all have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.